folks, how's it going? Dr. Spin, Eclectic Album Reviews, and General Musical Meanderings. The final episode, part 12 of 12 of the album Appetizers for 2022. These are all things that I've been sort of hanging on to from last year, or maybe got for the holiday season, and it's kind of a backlog of stuff I'm going to put all in one little chunk, and these albums are all going to be playing a big role going forward the rest of this year. I'm going to be explaining that a little bit at the end of this video, so if you're curious about how this vlog is going to play out after this is over with, please stay tuned towards the end. But first up I got Amythyst Kiah's Wary and Strange. Great musician that I sort of stumbled across somewhere along the line, Tennessee based, and she kind of lays at this interesting juncture between blues, kind of Americana style, and also kind of indie pop. And there are many aspects of her music that I think really elevate it beyond just the superficial ideas about those kinds of styles. She's got a great sense of melody and very expressive voice, great lyrics that are very socially conscious and also very honest about her own experiences, particularly as a black woman. And the songs are simple in some regards, but also very complex in the details that they have in them, the way that they build over time, the way that they go places. And her great use of melody and harmony is profoundly affects this album in a positive way throughout.
But I'm black myself. I'm tired of walking around with no shoes on, 'cause I'm black myself. And your precious God ain't gonna bless me, 'cause I'm black myself. Is you washed in the blood of your shadow, 'cause the lamb dried it away. When they stop shipping workhorses, they read their own anyway.
There are definitely some songs on here that lean a little bit more towards the blues, and there's one song in here that really leans almost full on into a country piece. But the album holds together so well due to Amythyst Kiah's charismatic delivery and her great use of melody. It's very expressive, but not so florid that it becomes hard to follow. The music overall in Wary and Strange is very accessible and I think will appeal to a broad variety of people. So this is one I think to check out. Okay, next up I got Anathema's We're Here Because We're Here. Now the interesting thing about Anathema is that in their original form they were actually a doom metal group, but they evolved pretty drastically over time, and you really see them coming into their own as like a progressive rock outfit, especially if you consider like the idea of King Crimson's more expressive and melodic work as far as songwriting goes as a starting point for this, talking about things like I Talk to the Wind and Starless. That kind of beautiful yet dark intensity is really the place where Anathema lives throughout this album. And I really love Anathema's ability to really grasp deep emotional content with their music. Their melodies that they use are very accessible and, you know, something that you can listen to, and they're hooky and they'll get caught in your head, but they're also very expressive, very emotional. And what they actually do so well is they're able to reference and call on their doom metal roots. That kind of intensity brims underneath, so they have these beautiful soaring melodies with this sort of dark intensity that just pulses underneath it, and it really makes the music super effective. And I'm a big fan of Anathema, especially after re-listening to this album and reconnecting with their music. Okay, next up I've got the Red Locusts, their self-titled debut. Now, this is a very fascinating release because the Red Locust is actually a nom de plume for, wait for it, Rick Springfield and the Bissonette brothers. On the album, they're not credited as such. They are kind of hiding behind pen names for this album. But of a 5-member band, Rick Springfield has been identified as the lead singer and possibly main songwriter. Greg Bissonette, who's the drummer that played with David Lee Roth and then later the Ringo Starr All-Star Band and many other groups. His brother Matt Bissonette playing bass, probably in some strings, and then 2 other guys that really haven't been identified yet, which is an interesting idea by itself. Like, are these other heavies or are they just studio people? So who knows? But the album itself is again a very loving tribute to the Beatles and power pop styles. I kind of understand why Rick Springfield has chosen not to put his name on this because, you know, with as much baggage as he has as being such a huge 80s rock star and the whole Where Are They Now file kind of artist, for him to put this out with his own name on it would have a lot of baggage with it. So I really get the sense that he and Greg Bissonette and Matt Bissonette got together because they just kind of wanted to have some fun and have a mutual love for the music of the Beatles. And they do a very nice job in this album throughout crafting music in that style.
I'm not gonna defend your screw-ups, 'cause you never came through for me. And it's another bad day for Cupid, and I'm here just looking stupid. And your arrows hit shadows, you can't hit her heart.
You got the super thick harmonies, you got the clever song structures, you got hooks all over the place, you got accessible lyrics, it's all there. It's just pretty much straight out of the Beatles songbook. But it's a fun listen, and I really think that's the point of the album, more than just trying to, you know, create an amazing top 40 breakthrough album. I don't think that's the point of this one. It's just to pay tribute to the music that these guys in this band love. Okay, finally I've got Tony Kaye's The End of Innocence. Tony Kaye was the original keyboard player for Yes. Now, you know, unfortunately, like all keyboard players in Yes, he constantly has to live in the shadow of Rick Wakeman, even though Rick Wakeman was his successor in the band. So that all aside, I've always felt like Tony Kaye has kind of not really gotten a fair shake, because he was a huge part of what got Yes off the ground and what those early versions of Yes sounded like. You know, if you talk about Time and a Word and back in that era, the keyboards played a really big role, and that was his thing. Now this album is his tribute to 9/11. Like other Yes members that we've seen earlier this year, John Anderson, Tony Kaye used 2020 to pull a project out of the mothballs and try to get it done. And this is an album that he started working on after 9/11 happened. Now I'm going to draw some flack for this, but to be honest, I'm not a super big fan of this album. And I love Tony Kaye. It's much more of an impressionistic pastiche of sounds that recall what happened during 9/11 than it is an actual, like, straightforward thing. It's also marred a little bit, though, by the sounds that are used on the album. For an album that's trying to reach for something orchestral, many of the sounds sound very synthetic, especially when you start talking about the drums and the timpani. Very difficult to sell some of those. Again, I'm sure he's programming this at his house, and it's all meticulously done, but having some of those parts done by a live group, I think, would have improved this recording quite a bit. I hate to leave this whole big project on an album that I wasn't super fond of, but this is it. This is all the albums for the album Appetizers series. So here's what happens next. These albums are all going to be put up in an elimination with each other starting in February. The goal, of course, is to get to a mid-year top 10. Now, the good news is, at this point, if something is eliminated, it's not gone forever. We're going to come back after the mid-year top 10 and do another elimination with the stuff that didn't make it, just to make sure we didn't miss anything due to just lack of familiarity with it. Now, if you want to keep your eye on those eliminations, I'm not going to post videos on all of those, but I'm instead going to post them in text on my blog. So if you want to keep up with the eliminations up to a certain point, just seeing how these things play out, if you're curious how your favorites roll out, that's the place to look for it. And then whenever we get closer to actual top 10, I'll do some elimination posts on those when we get a little bit closer. Okay? If you want to know when those are going to happen, again, please like and subscribe and share it out with your friends. Also, follow me over on Spotify, putting tracks up over there. Next week, I'm going to get back into the deep dive reviews. It's been like 2 months since I've done one, so I'm really super excited about it. So until then, I'll catch you guys on the flip side.